What's up guys, Deagle here from ProNDC. Welcome to another ESO build video. In today's build video I want to focus on the Stamina Templer PVE build update for the Wolfhunter DLC. So if you want to know if something has changed or how to play the Stamina Templer for the Wolfhunter patch, stay tuned. So that was the DPS test on the 6-mil skeleton, of course with major fracture and with minor brutality, so I can have an easier time to compare the stam classes in these DPS tests. DPS is still fine on the Stamina Templar, is still above 50k. With a flexible rotation you can get a bit higher DPS, and yeah, Stamina Templar is still a fun class to play. But let's start with the stats first. So I currently am a red guard. Personally for me, the only real viable choice on the Stamina Templar, because otherwise you will probably have some sustain issues. The red guard gives you back stamina with melee attacks. It has 10% more max stam and 9% more stam recovery, which is really nice. We have all 64 points into stamina. We wear 7 medium, and you can see the rest of the stats for yourself. Of course, all divine pieces with the lower Munda stones, you get the 4196 penetration. We are a vampire, and we use max health and max stamina food. You can use recovery food. As you can see, we have a little bit more HP. With the recovery food, with the gold one from Somerset, with the Arteo one, the takeaway broth, you are at around 15.9k HP. If you use Dubious Cameron Throne, you are at 15.7k. So you might want to put like 1 to 3 points into health to compensate that, but your stamina will drop a bit lower. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the stats. Let's get to gear. So gear-wise, nothing really changed. We still use 5 pieces of Perfect Reliquant, and we still use 5 pieces of Ravaging. All divine pieces on the body, all medium like I said, all stamina enchanted, and Perfect Reliquant, you get it from Cloud Rest. It's pretty self-explanatory. You get a lot of crit, minor slayer, max stam if you use the perfected version. An alternative, of course, the non-perfected version, which is easily farmable in Cloud Rest on normal mode. Yeah, the harmful winds, they stack up to 20 times, deal physical damage, quite a lot of DPS, so that's pretty good. Then Ravager set, we can get it from Vlastaris, the PvP city, in the southwest, if I remember correctly. It's a heavy armor set, so you can get the PvP boxes there. You can upgrade the jewelry pieces if you have the necessary materials. In Wolfhunter, we only need 50% of the upgrade materials now, so 4 platings should be enough to upgrade it, or are enough, and they are not that expensive. So you're sitting at like 250, 280, maybe 300k for upgrading 1 ring, so that should be a little bit cheaper than actually buying them in PvP, because 1 ring in PvP, if you do not have the alliance points, is 500k gold. It's actually not worth it for the necklace, but you will save a bit of gold on the rings at least. So 3 bloodthirsty rings, all spell damage on Ravager, and then 2 daggers, 1 Nirnhound and 1 infused. We still keep the same traits as last patch. They gave me the best results, especially Nirn on the main hand gives us about 200 more weapon damage, and the Templar has a passive which increases our weapon damage by another 6%, so that's pretty nice. So this, like I said, is a heavy armor set, but we get weapon crit, max health, which is nice, so we can actually play recovery food if needed, weapon damage, and when we deal melee damage, we have an 8% chance to increase the weapon damage by 645 for 10 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. So it can proc off cooldown. That's really, really good. And the harmful winds, they count as melee damage, so they can proc Ravager. And also your jabs also can proc it, from what I've heard, so that's also really nice. 3 Bloodthirsty is most DPS. In some scenarios, maybe if your group is not that good, or you do not play very successful in certain trials where you're trying to progress, Infused will be the better choice. Infused is not that much weaker compared to Bloodthirsty. It is, however, quite a bit stronger compared to Robust. But like I said, Infused is a bit safer. So what you actually want to have is 3 jewelry pieces of Robust, of Bloodthirsty, and 3 of Infused, so you can swap them around. The Nirnhound Ravager Dagger has a disease glyph now, because the poison glyph moves to the back bar, to the Infused Maelstrom Bow. And then we have an Infused Ravaging Dagger on the offhand with a weapon damage enchantment. So we want to get the average weapon damage as high as possible on the Templar because of the passives. We wanted to do that in general on STEM classes, but this is really, really important. So the Maelstrom Bow is now infused. We do not use Precise or Nirnhound anymore because Infused reduces the cooldown, and that's actually the only trait that carries over to the other bar. Why do we have a damage enchantment on the back bar now? So they changed the way glyphs work. Our Endless Hail, which procs the Maelstrom Bow and set bonus, activates the poison glyph off of cooldown as long as it's up. So we want to have the Endless Hail up all the time, so it will activate the poison damage over and over again. The only downside of this is that if you're standing close to the boss, but there is another enemy, maybe an ad, closer to you, the ad will get the damage from the poison damage enchantment. So you might end up losing a few hundred DPS to 1k DPS in certain fights, so that's not that good, but theoretically you will end up with more DPS this way. And since we do not play poisons on the back bar anymore, which is really cool, we do not have to buy the poisons, and we do not have to argue with other players, like or fight over who gets to play the double dot poisons, the CP150 ones, because they do not stack in groups when multiple people use them. We don't have to do that anymore. We play a disease damage glyph on the Nirnhound Dagger now. We have an infused bow with a Daedric enchantment. Because it's on the Maelstrom Bow and because of the limited amount of bosses in trials we can use it, like it's Rakhat, it's Rakotu in Helra, it's the Lightning Storm Atro and the Foundation Storm Atro in the Aetherian Archive. They don't have ads at all that can get affected by the prismatic glyph, and the DPS of that glyph will go up by quite a lot compared to the prior patches. If we use a prismatic bow on the back bar, the poison glyph should move to the front bar again, because the dot of the poison status effect is actually quite strong. So for optimized damage, you want to have a third dagger with a poison glyph, Nirnhound, so you can just like swap it around. So, before I get to the monster set, what are the replacement sets for Reliquant and Ravager? So you can keep Ravager. It's really strong, and you can play the normal Reliquant set, of course, which works just fine. You can also use the Vicious Ophidian set, which will also give you a lot of crit, minor slayer, weapon damage, and cost reduction, so that's actually pretty nice. You could also go with Automaton and the Vicious Ophidian set through jewelry pieces and daggers, which you played until Clockwork City was a pretty good set combination. You can also, if you want to have a craftable option, go with the Hunting's Rage set. What also works really well, especially if you have fights with multiple targets where Reliquant is not really good because you can only keep the 20 stacks up on one target at the same time, is Twice-Fanged Serpent. So Twice-Fanged Serpent on the body combined with, for example, Vicious Ophidian for the extra cost reduction, and then you change the Wonderstone from the Lover to the Warrior, because Twice-Fanged Serpent will compensate the penetration of the Lover Wonderstone, and then you can actually go to the Warrior and have more weapon damage, so that's actually pretty nice on the Templar. As a monster set, we currently use Selene. Really strong, because some stamina and has only 4-second cooldown. The melee attacks, the harmful winds actually count as melee attacks, not just for Ravager but also for Selene. And we use it basically in all fights, unless the boss has a huge hitbox. For example, the Assembly General, Valariel, Rakotu, and Foundation Storm Atro. In those fights, we actually want to go to the Veldreth set, because these disease spores on these big hitboxes, more than just one spore can actually hit the target, and that's pretty cool. And yeah, those are the set combinations that I can recommend, or the alternative set combinations that I can recommend. There are of course more. If you want to know if your set combination works on the Stamina Templar, just ask me in the comment section. I'll be glad to answer your questions. But that's enough for gear. Let's have a look at skills. So skill-wise, nothing really changed. We currently have Biting Jabs here. Main spammable ability, pretty self-explanatory. We use it every time our dots are active, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Then we have Blood Craze. I'm just a bit lazy, too lazy to actually morph it to Rending Slashes. My Rending Slashes is not leveled, so will be a little bit less damage, but the DPS difference is not that high. The extra heal is nice for VMA and also maybe in PvP, but I really recommend to go with Rending Slashes if you really want to maximize the DPS. I'm just slacking on this part, I'm sorry. Then we have Expert Hunter. We use this for the extra weapon damage from the Slayer passive of the Fighters Guild, and that's basically it. You can also put in Circle of Protection if you want to play a bit defensively at some points and protect your allies because you're in melee range. And that also works, also gives you the 3% more weapon damage, and that's pretty nice. You could also, from Do It, go with Deadly Cloak if you needed it for the AoE DPS damage reduction, but I don't think it's necessary at all. Then we have Rearming Trap. So we get Minor Force from this one, and this is really important. 10% more crit damage is also a good single target dot. And if you want to play a flexible rotation, you want to actually recast it when the Minor Force runs out, not recast it every rotation. Then we have Power of the Light. This is really important because it applies Minor Fracture and Minor Breach. 1320 physical and spell resistance debuff for 6 seconds. So we want to cast it as much as possible and keep a really high uptime. If you're a good player, 80% plus uptimes in static fights should be easy for you. However, Power of the Light is still a bit buggy. So the only reason to actually bring a Stamina Templar compared to other Stam classes, especially compared to a Stamina Nightblade, is Power of the Light. There are groups that don't even play with a Stamina Templar anymore. They just use Thunder Flame or put Power of the Light on a healer, and they're good to go. This ability, same as the Magic Morph, Purifying Light, is a little bit buggy. There are fights where you will not get the extra damage from the explosion, and ZeniMax has still not fixed the bug of the skill. It's a little bit annoying, but it will reduce your single target DPS in trials by up to 2k, maybe a tiny bit more. Sometimes it's less, depending on how lucky you get with the explosion damage procs. I tested it. It's not me casting this ability too early. I asked other Templars, and they get the same bugs, and ZeniMax is still not fixing it. It's a little bit sad, but yeah. Otherwise, Stamina Templer would be really nice when it comes to DPS, like in comparison to other stam classes in trials. Then we have Flawless Dawnbreaker. We basically only use this ability actively if we do not get enough ultimate for the backbar ultimate for the ballista ready. We actually have it because of the 5% extra weapon damage, and then again from the fighter skilled ability from the passive here for Slayer for an additional 3%. On the backbar we have ballista, single target ultimate, really strong, lasts 5.2 seconds and deals a ton of damage. Really strong. Then we have Razor Caltrops here, AoE from Alliance War Assault. Also pretty self-explanatory. We need about 200,000 Alliance points to unlock it. Then I have Luminous Shards. I have it for the Piercing Spear passive here. And I also use it a lot in trash, and I also use it when I have to block certain mechanics and I still want to do damage or not want my DPS to drop by a lot. And the good thing is Luminous Shards, it has a dot and it can proc Burning Light. So we have a 0.5 second cooldown, and it can deal an additional 4.7k physical damage with a 25% chance every dot tick. So it's pretty cool. And the good thing is, if you have multiple targets, they do not share the Burning Light cooldown. So they each have their own cooldown, and Luminous Shards can proc the Burning Light. And it's really, really nice. Then we have a flex spot. So we have Expert Hunter here for the extra weapon damage. We can put Sunshield here, for example, in a Sanatorium if you actually want to shield ourselves. I used that in the trial in hard mode. That's pretty nice. We can use, for example, Restoring Focus or Extended Ritual. Repentance also works for an additional recovery on the back bar or for getting back stamina in trash fights. That's really, really nice. So those are some options. What you can also do is go with Resolving Vigor. It's up to you. Or you can use the Circle of Protection on the back bar. Then we have Poison Injection, the single target dot, really strong, especially in Execute. And then Endless Hail, activating the Maelstrom Bow, strongest stamina ability in the game, single target and AoE wise. That's pretty much it for skills. Let's have a look at champion points. So for the green and red CP, usually I adjust them according to the content that I play. Especially from the red CP, like green CP, I usually keep the same in most situations, but I always adjust the red CP. I currently have like kind of a balanced setup here. It's not, I didn't distribute the points for like any specific trial, but if you have questions how to actually distribute the CP for certain trials, just ask me in the comments section. I gladly answer them. So if you want to, I would just like show it to you, and if you want to know like what the points are, just hit the pause button. Like I have a lot in recovery, 27 to tenacity. I might put some more points here actually, and then 44 on tumbling, 48 in Shadow Ward. That's pretty much it. For the red CP, the same thing. It's just standard CP distribution. Just hit the pause button if you want to see it. Like I said, if you have any questions and want to know how to distribute them in a certain trial, just ask me in the comments section. What's more important is the blue CP tree. So I currently have 23 into piercing. Last patch I said 16 are enough, which is actually correct. However, there is a bit of downtime on certain buffs and debuffs. Or in that case, only debuffs on the target. So your Power of the Light will not be active 100% of the time. Alkosh will not be active 100% of the time. And also the Crush enchantment might have some downtime of a few percent. So to compensate the downtime of these resistance debuffs, we want to put some more points into piercing. And in addition to that, on trash fights, you have more penetration, and then trash will die faster, because penetration is the most important stat we can have. We want to get as close to the 18.2k as possible to get the most damage. And even if we over penetrate a little bit, having being able to compensate the downtime of the resistance debuffs will give us more DPS. Yeah, so 56 into IT, 56 Thaumaturge because we have a lot of dots. The jabs count as damage over time. 48 into Precise Strikes because we do not have a lot of crit chance. And then we have 61 Mastered Arms and 60 into Physical Weapon Expert. And that's pretty much it for champion points. Let's get to the skeleton and show you the static rotation. Okay, I'm on the skeleton now, and personally, I play a flexible rotation now, or I'm trying to play one whenever I get the chance to actually play the Templar. However, for the console players out there, a static rotation might be a little bit easier for you. So basically, what I do on all STEM classes, I light attack, cast Endless Hail, light attack, Caltrops, light attack, Poison Injection into a bar swap, unless I have my ultimate ready. Then on the front bar, I light attack, Rearmy Trap, light attack, Power of the Light, do a heavy attack into Blood Craze, 2 times Biting Jabs with a light attack, recast Power of the Light, and then I start over again. That's the whole rotation. It's pretty simple. If you need a bit more sustain, what you can do is do a heavy attack into a trap and then use Power of the Light. Your Power of the Light uptime will go down by a tiny bit, but I used to play that in the past and it was actually pretty fine. Also, if you use Ballista, when you go to the front bar, you do light attack, Power of the Light immediately, then put down the Rearmy Trap. Use only 1 jabs. Use heavy attack, Blood Craze, only 1 jabs, and then Power of the Light again to bar swap. So always keep in mind, whenever you use an ultimate to have optimized uptime of Power of the Light, you want to take away 1 more spammable in that case. So basically looks like this. So I'm on the back bar, I use my Hail with a light attack, and Caltrops with a light attack, Poison Injection with a light attack Trap, light attack Power of the Light, heavy attack Branding Slashes, light attack Jabs, light attack Jabs, Power of the Light again, into bar swap, and I start over again. But now I use my ultimate, and heavy attack here, and that's pretty much it, how it looks. Like I said, you can do a heavy attack with a trap at 2 to get a bit more sustain, so you have 2 heavy attacks in rotation. But it's actually really easy. I'm not sure if I explained it a little bit more detailed. If I have a little bit more detailed explanation in my previous videos, maybe. So if you want to know a bit more about the rotation, you can have a look at it there. I adjust it slightly every patch because I feel sometimes I get better results with adjusting it a little bit differently, like what I did in the past. Even when I used the Ballista, I still used light attack, trap, and then Power of the Light, because your Power of the Light uptime will go down a little bit, so I just swap it around this patch now. So whenever I use my ultimate on the back bar, I just light attack, Power of the Light after that immediately, then put down the trap and then use Rending Slashes. But like I said, it's up to you. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for the rotation and for the whole build. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Make sure to hit the like button of the video, and I hope you tune next time too. So I hope you also hit the sub button if you do not want to miss any more ESO content, and yeah, see you next time. Until then, bye bye.